Okay, so I have a really fun video today. I am going to show you how to prune common kitchen herbs for continuous growth. Like we have mint, for example, sage, there's rosemary, and then we also have parsley as well as basil. Okay, so this will be super fun. I kind of have two categories of pruning here. One is pruning between two nodes, so taking off the top growth so that two side shoots can shoot out. That would be things like sage, rosemary, mint. Honestly, anytime you ever see a stem and then two nodes, so for example, there's a stem here and there are these two nodes. The other thing that I have to prune is herbs that come out from the middle. So those would be things like parsley, cilantro. Okay, so let's start with the sage. Now, I think people's common mistake is when they have a living plant is they treat it just like a grocery store plant. So I'd probably come in here and I would look and I would find the biggest leaves and I would go, oh, I want to just take that off. Well, if you do that, what's going to happen is you're going to end up stripping your entire plant, kind of like what's happened here. And then the plant won't have anything to photosynthesize and it will eventually become a stem and just die. So for things like sage, what you want to do is you want to find the middle stem and you want to see that there are two little baby nodes popping out on either side. And you're going to cut off that main middle stem. I know, it seems crazy, but you actually cut off the top beautiful bits. And that is because this plant will grow twice as bushy now. Because now I have these two little tiny sage nodes that are going to grow into two bigger offshoots. An example of that would be what I have right here. This was cut in the middle. It actually has little babies sprouting out of it, so that's really fun too. But anyways, it was chopped off right there. And then these were the two little ones that are now growing into a bigger, bushier plant. Pruning sage is basically how you would prune basil, which you might already know how to do. So we have our basil plant here. And actually the really cool thing about this plant is that you can see how big and bushy it is, right? But it is just one basil plant. And it's basically turning into this big bushy tree with a wooden stem. You can even see here how this is now getting strong. It's basically like a mini little tree trunk. And you would be able to see that I actually did prune it a long time ago. Right here, this would have been where I snipped off that initial middle stem. And then these continued to grow out into side shoots. And of course, as you trim all around, that multiplies and branches out, and then you end up with big bushes. Okay, so I can do the same thing here with this big one. You see that there is this giant middle stem. That's kind of easy to find. And then I can see on either side of the stem, all the way up, there are two nodes growing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this all the way back, and I'm going to cut at one of the lower nodes and snip right there. The middle stalk comes off. And then what you have left are these two nodes on either side that are going to grow out big and bushy. And again, you can see where I've done this. See right here would have been the middle where I snipped. And then these two big ones kept growing. And then again, you could continue to snip between each one of those and they'll continue to grow. So we've done our sage, we've done our basil, and mint is actually very similar. Mint actually does have the same thing going on. Even if you can't see it yet, two tiny little nodes will sprout out from in between these big leaves right next to the stem. Basically, you're just going to cut above two sets of branching leaves. It's super simple. So I've actually already done that right here. If you can see it, you can tell that I've snipped right here. And then this one has started to grow. And there is a tiny one starting here. It's lagging behind, but it'll catch up. And then that's how you get a big bushy mint plant. And I know in your garden, you probably don't need to worry about making a big bushy mint plant because it grows so vigorously. But what we do is we give these mint pots to the bar and they come back looking really sad, really defeated. So I just want to show you something really cool that you can do to actually revive your entire mint pot if you have a really sad looking pot with leaves that are speckled or they look damaged, they might have white spots or brown. And this one right here is an example of that. So for this mint pot, the reason it looks kind of bare is because in order to revive mint that's kind of spent, what you can actually do, and it seems counterintuitive, trust me, but you can cut it completely down to the soil. There was almost nothing showing. So exactly just like this, you would take this and you would cut it all the way down, right to the soil. And what happens, because mint grows up from these little shoots from beneath the ground, right? It puts out runners, that's why it spreads so easily in our garden. It is actually able to put up new healthy growth once it's all been cut back. And that is because pruning encourages new growth. So when we prune a potted mint plant like that really heavily all the way back to the soil, it signals down to the plant to reproduce more new leaves so that it can continue to live and keep on growing. Plants are just like people and all living things. They basically just want to survive. So yeah, I trimmed this entire pot down a few weeks ago and it looked really, really sad. I mean, all this new growth is starting to come back now, and in a few more weeks, it's going to look like this one. That's how you do mint. The other herb I want to show you how to do is rosemary. It's kind of counterintuitive. If I were to get rosemary from the grocery store, I would probably treat it exactly how I was going to treat mint, which is I come in here and I prune off all the biggest, woodiest growth, right? Take the old growth so that the new growth can keep growing. But that's actually not what you want to do, because you can see with this plant, see how long and leggy these stems are? That is all new growth. And I can tell because the oldest growth has a brown woody stem and the newer growth has a soft green stem. So it's actually easier for the plant to recover and keep growing if you trim the soft stem. So you're basically trimming the new growth. And as you can see, they are just like the mint or the basil or even the sage, where they have two new little baby nodes growing out from the side of the main stem. So what I can actually do is come in here, go almost all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to cut right in between the two nodes. It smells absolutely amazing. If we continue to prune it, it will continue to branch out and get bushier and bushier, just like that basil plant I showed you. Rosemary is kind of a slow grower too, so it is nice if you can prune down as low as possible. Basically, just right above that new green growth is where you want to prune. It's so fun. Look at that. Basically, because we've pruned this, that means just like the mint signaling to push out more mint leaves, we have now signaled to the rosemary plant to start pushing out energy towards growing those side shoots. And just like the basil, to end up being one little mini tree bush, it's just by pruning. So yeah, I would say the basic principle between all four of those that I just showed you is just cut right above two branching leaf nodes. And that's how you make a big bushy plant. Amazing. Wow. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll probably let this grow and then come back in a couple weeks and prune again. Super fun. Okay, my dears. So another popular herb, or I guess herbs, are parsley and cilantro. And again, when you get a bunch of parsley or cilantro from the grocery store, the first thing you probably do is go ahead and you strip all the leaves off the stem. So if I had this stem here, I would just go like this, and I would just come on in and take off all of the biggest leaves. Well, just like the mint, if you remove all of the leaves from any plant, it can no longer photosynthesize. So that means it can no longer get energy from the sun to continue growing. If you do this to your potted plant, your plant will die. I'm sorry. I'm going to show you how to prune it so that it continues to grow. And you could keep parsley for months, even up to 2 years before it goes to flower. So with parsley, what you want to do is you want to come in and you want to find the biggest, thickest, tallest stems. Those will be the oldest stems. So with parsley, you actually do cut the oldest stems first. So I can instantly see right here, this guy, he's the tallest, he's super thick. So what you're going to want to do is go all the way to the base and cut him right at the bottom there. And then this is what you can use. So there you have it. What I would do with this parsley plant is basically twice a week, actually. My parsley is growing pretty well. So find an outer leaf and follow it all the way down to the bottom and give it a trim. See how this is a new baby coming out? We don't cut those. We cut the big old growth, just like that. There are a couple different parsley plants in this pot close together. So that's why it looks like this. This isn't just one plant. There's probably maybe 10 in here. So parsley is pretty cool. Cilantro is just like that. I trim this twice a week and give it to the kitchen. So fresh and so clean. Okay, garden girlies. So that is exactly how you prune herbs for bushier continuous growth. So happy you came. Go ahead and subscribe if you want more edible gardening content, or leave a comment if you have any questions at all. Okay, thank you. Bye.